What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality Podcast. I'm your host. I am Caitlin Kenneth Smith, and today I have a conversation with my good friend and my Hidden Summit colleague, Heaven. And, she's truly one of the backbones of the Hidden Summit community. She's behind the scenes. She's in the admin department, making everything work seamlessly. I swear I would be so lost and confused some days without Heaven and her unique guidance to be able to help us run systems. Now, she's more than that. We talk all about how she has finally gotten to the point in her life where she's confident in who she is and is confident on the path that she's on and where she's going in life, which is something that she's always struggled with as a triplet, where she was constantly being tied to her siblings' identity and was really struggling to be able to find her own. And we get into how she was able to learn a lot from different mentors in her life, not being afraid to ask questions or ask for help, and really just focusing on going all in on her and what's most important to her. So if you're at the point in your life where you're lost or you're struggling to figure out who you truly are, not attached to other things or other people, or, if you're just on a path that you're not 100% confident in, I really hope that this episode provides you with some clarity to take action on what's most important to you. And as always, guys, share the podcast. We can spread the mission. I know this one is going to be one that you get a ton of value from, and enjoy Heaven's story. All right, guys, so I have my good friend Heaven here, and friend and colleague, because Heaven also works for Hidden Summit. Now, I've been having a lot of Hidden Summit people on this podcast because a lot of the people who work at Hidden Summit have incredible stories and they have incredible value to share. And Heaven actually came to me, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, when you listened to Sam Norman's second podcast where she spoke all about like how you talk to yourself, and you said, I have something that could add value to people. And I was like, let's go. I love that. I love the enthusiasm too, because I hate when I have to like tiptoe to find people. I love when people come to me with confidence that they have a good story. So tell the people a little bit about what you do for Hidden Summit and how you got there first, and then we'll go into your stories.
Yeah, with Hidden Summit, I work a lot on the what we call back end. So a lot of people don't necessarily see my face, but they'll definitely get emails from me, or as people onboard into the ecosystem that we have, they hear from me a lot. And I like to analyze data, kind of see what's working well for us, what's not, help clients get the resources that they need. So kind of jack of all trades situation where I'm all over the place. But I got into Hidden Summit mainly like I got after college, essentially. I knew that after I wasn't playing sports anymore, I was like, I got to do something to stay fit. And so I got into the gym setting, and I was in fast food for a very long time. I slowly moved
Chick-fil-A.
up. Yeah, Chick-fil-A. I slowly moved up there. I worked there for 6 years, and it was a beautiful thing. I got to hand in hand work on my degree, but also learn all of those things in real time. So that was a great journey there. And as I grew and wanted to pursue other things, I had other options laid out, and I got into managing gyms. And so that's when I kind of got into that fitness realm. And now it's a beautiful mixture of business and fitness in my head, at least.
Yeah,
So
for sure. And
that's
I
really
think
how that
it's
mix.
also kind of crazy. How old are you, Heaven?
I am 25.
You're 25 and you've already worked at Chick-fil-A for 6 years, moved up into what you were a manager at the time you left, correct?
Yeah, I basically I labeled it as like I capped out, but I was a director of operations.
Yeah, so you were like up there.
Yeah, just below the general manager. And if anyone knows Chick-fil-A's, or at least the one in my town, a lot of management has been there for quite a while. So if you wanted to move up past that, it would be a while.
Yeah, so you've managed gyms, you've done a lot in your short time, and that's one of the things that I've always loved about you. Is the first time I like started to get to know you, I was like, damn, this girl's got it together. And it kind of reminded me of myself, because I was a manager of gyms when I was like 22, 23, and people would always be like, you're the manager, because I already look like I'm like 16.
Yep, I get that a lot too.
Yeah, so we could like relate on that topic, and I think that's so cool that you are really focused on becoming a better version of yourself in that area of your life, because so many people kind of fumble around with that, and then they get into their late 20s, early 30s, and then that's kind of when they finally start to get that shit together.
Oh yeah. I like
So
to think I have my stuff together, but
yeah. And I think with Hidden Summit, you're probably one of the most valuable people because you literally keep it together. I would like to say that.
well, thank you. I
We wouldn't
appreciate
have any of the Excel sheets without you.
it. Love them. I love them. I honestly think I probably couldn't live without them. Formulas, colors, all the things.
And anytime I have a question, you know the answer.
Yeah, I try. I mean, I feel like I ask a lot of questions to Liz and Chris and Cabin, and even sometimes I'll message Justin. Like it's definitely a team effort, but I try my best.
Yeah, and
So
that's actually really important too, because that's a point that a lot of people, when they're in a career, they don't ask enough questions because they're almost like afraid to ask questions, when in all reality, asking questions is the only way to grow.
absolutely.
Yeah, so let's get back to the beginning, because the biggest part of this story is finding your identity, finding out who you are, who you want to be in your life, not what other people want you to be. So, where does that all start for you, Heaven?
It started a very long time ago
25
because
years ago?
I'm a triplet. And a lot of people don't know that. They get confused when I share social media and they're like, wait, you don't have hair extensions. You actually have short hair. What is going on? Who is this? So I'm a triplet. I have an identical sister, but also have a fraternal sister. So what that means is one of my sisters looks exactly like this face. And then my other sister, she's got brown eyes, dark hair. She can tan and get dark, beautiful, glowing skin. I cannot. I get freckles and red, just lobster skin. So growing up, there was this basically a whole belief that like we're all grouped together. And although that was wonderful, I love my sisters. I would die for them. I would do absolutely anything for them. It was a hard transition between kind of like the adolescent years into teenage years,
Yeah.
because obviously there's a lot of other things going on during those years. But um, even like my mom when we were younger, I remember it so vividly. She would buy clothes where they were all the same outfits but different colors.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were still similar but different. And for a very long time, we even took the same classes together. This was like primary school. And then we moved into middle school and or elementary and middle school. And my mom actually made sure that we went different routes. That way we could develop that independence and individuality. And so that was kind of the stepping stone of understanding we're not supposed to be all together all the time or be considered one thing.
Yeah. When you
So
were younger, did you feel as though like you were not as important because you didn't have like your own individuality in that sense, because you were like attached to these other people?
early on, like I said, like when I was like super young, probably younger than probably like 6 or 7, it was
Mm-hmm.
very confusing. My mom made it super evident, my dad made it evident that we all were equal, but it was one of those things like we all fortunately were able to even play sports. So like we each had our own sport as well,
Mm.
that everybody correlated with each person. So we were able to try to shift those gears, like I said, pretty early on, but it was very confusing as a kid. There's plenty of other things going on, environment. I mean, you're worried about school, you're worried about what people think about you, you're worried about, just all the conscious things that go in your head. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't fully understand most of this until my college years when I was like, whoa, a lot happened back then.
Yeah. Did you go off to college without your sisters then?
Yeah, so um I would say elementary, middle, like even moving forward from there, we all had different classes.
Mm-hmm.
Different kinds of classes, different teachers. So it was great that we were, yes, still going to the same school, but we still had those different routes. And then college was drastically different. Kirsten wanted to get out of the town. I was totally okay with staying in town. I was like, keep me here in my bubble. That is okay. And then Kat, she stayed local too, but what she wanted for her degree back then was completely different from what I wanted. And so luckily, like what we sought out took us different routes.
Which is
So
great because then you are your own person in that sense, and you don't always feel like, oh, this person is just trying to copy me or they're the same person. I don't feel like I can be my unique self. Now, Kirsten is your identical twin, correct?
yeah, she's the one that's been in all of my Instagram stories for the past like month and a half.
Yeah, you guys are working out together and everything.
Yeah, she joined us with a fitness challenge and she has loved it. She's now doing the 6 week challenge, um, and just developing better habits and systems with her and she's been super receptive. So I'm fortunate to have that as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So going off to college, what kind of happened there?
Yeah, so this is where everything kind of clicked.
Hmm.
Um, Not only did I realize like I'm independent from them, but also understanding that following trends or following I mean it could be various things like people have role models, people eventually they may not recognize it, but they could also start idolizing different things and I early on wanted to make sure my values were that top priority.
Hmm.
So understanding that I'm independent, I have individuality, but then understanding what does that mean? What do I want to be made of? What do I want to exude? And that was one of the building blocks of how, honestly, how I'm here, right? So early on in college, we are actually given an assignment. And the assignment was to list out 7 values from top ranking order, top down, basically the top one. It will always go before the rest
Hmm.
and say a situation comes up and number 6 is happening, but also number 2 is happening. Well, number 2 is going to come first because it's the closer to the top of the list.
Kind of like priorities.
Yeah. So we did that, and it was very hard for me to distinguish what those look like. Um,
Hmm.
it took me honestly all the way up until like right at the due date to figure out what I wanted to list in what order. Um, because I think being in that critical stage of understanding everyone has different values at different rankings and trying to distinguish that for me instead of listening to what other people basically have values on. And I grew up very like Southern Baptist church, very conservative home. So there's all kinds of influences and they only want the best for you.
Hmm.
And then I'm also at this private liberal arts college, and then they're basically exposing me to all kinds of other things in life and all these different groups. And like it was crazy. So I'm like, all these things are kind of screaming at me. So I finally got it laid out. Couldn't tell you that list right now. Um,
That's what's the
I
funny
know,
part, that you spent
like the
so
top
much
three.
time. You
Yeah.
spent so much time just like thinking about it and having all this influence from it, and then it's like, oh, I can't even remember
And
what.
it's kind of silly that they would ask such of an important project too, because as you get older, those things will change.
Oh, absolutely. Like your core values, I feel like are always evolving based on the
Right.
person that you're becoming.
Yeah. And I always had like the spiritual aspect, like my relationship with God is top priority always.
Yeah.
And integrity kind of falls in line with that too, is doing what's right even when no one's looking, when it seems like no one's looking. Technically, you're always being watched, but that's my
Technically.
opinion.
Yep.
Well, we won't get into that. But yeah, it's figuring out all that stuff, and I mean, that was always the top. And like I also grew up with um we had more than we could ever want, to be honest, but there was struggles, and my family always tried to protect that, like protect us from that, because they always wanted us to understand that we're loved and that we have all we need and that we're cared for and provided for. And we were, but I could see quite clearly like my mom and dad definitely struggled.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of it. I mean, you have a big family, um, and with different families that start as young as they did, I mean, it's just stressful all the time.
Oh, yeah. And it
You're
just
gonna
adds the
struggle.
stress of the
Yeah.
environment, and that environment impacts the people's behaviors who are in that environment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will wholeheartedly say everyone in the family has grown from that entire situation. Um, and it has developed me into who I am today. But understanding that their struggles don't have to be mine in the
Mm.
future. Like my family doesn't have to go through that, and I can be proactive towards those things. So that was another thing that's always been on my mind.
I
Um,
think that probably motivates you to be a hard worker because I know that's one of the reasons why I work really hard at my career and things like that is because when I was younger, we definitely struggled and I wanted to make sure that my family never experienced that.
and it's being on that receiving end of understanding. Like I do know my family did their best, and I think I don't ever want them to think that they didn't. But we all know that actions have consequences, and
Right.
so understanding that, and like I said, being proactive. For me and my structure, like I said, spiritual, and then of course the integrity piece, but also working towards my goals and my future family. Like I don't have kids yet, but I want to have kids, and so
Mhm.
I'm going to be prepared when I do want to have kids. And
Yes.
so, it's that whole structure is like everything I work towards every single day. So
Nice. So then what brought you to the point where you finally kind of discovered who you are and who you want to become? Like, how did you really figure out your identity?
um, it's kind of ironic. So I have a phoenix on my arm. It's a tattoo.
You have some great tattoos, by the way.
Thank you. There was a lot of thought behind them. So I have a phoenix, and the reason I have the phoenix, I don't think I've ever really outspoken this before, but everyone knows that a phoenix will rise from its ashes and it's reborn and all the cliche things. But a lot of people also assume it's a Harry Potter reference. It's not. It
Oh,
could
see,
be.
I would initially think that because of
Right.
who you are. I'd be like, oh, that's just a Harry Potter thing. But a
Yeah.
phoenix is a powerful thing.
Yeah. And so the whole story of like suffering and going through this hardship, but then coming out of it anew and just brand new person. I felt that way after my parents' divorce.
Hmm.
There was a lot of answered prayers. There was a lot of heartache. There was a lot of very sincere conversations. And I think through that and watching my parents grow, but also me growing from that, is there's a lot of details, but essentially there was so many shifts in understanding and wisdom that came through that, and I finally understood who I wanted to be. And at the end of the day, I do want to make sure in whole that I'm just a good human and I treat people well and I love people well. And if that transitions into, like I said earlier, the spiritual stuff, the work, the family, then I'm doing everything okay.
Great. And do you find like through the hardship, through the struggle, that's where you truly learn the most about yourself?
Absolutely. I mean, you start to understand like, and I'm not a perfect person, right? So I'm gonna I could react very aggressively with certain situations. It could go really green or it could go really red. And there was a lot of red.
Yeah.
That could have been during quiet time. That could have been towards another person. Um, and through that healing journey of reflection and trying to understand situations, there was a lot of purposeful reflection.
Hmm.
So understanding like, okay, that was a crappy situation, but what can I learn from it? What lesson is there? What is there? Is there another perspective at least? Or who could I go to talk to about it?
Yeah. I like to say no problems, only solutions because I mean, humans we're meant to see things as problems and then that blinds us to the potential opportunities that can come from that situation. I think that a lot of people would agree that a lot of the struggling or tough times that we go through, yeah, they suck, but we grow so much if we choose to. The problem is a lot of people don't choose to. They decide to allow that thing to continue to be like that crutch that they lean on as to why they can accomplish certain things. Now, you've accomplished a lot of really cool things in your life when it comes to just like your career. So, how do you think that's impacted you to allow you to really pursue and grow in those areas?
I think the biggest thing is perspective and being able to relate to a lot of people. I've been able to carry plenty of conversations and speak to individuals that are nothing like me or come from a completely different background, or want different things. And at some point of the conversation, it aligns. So I like to think it's made me more relatable to people, and able to love them in different ways. whether that's from afar, like we all talk about boundaries a lot, and understanding that other people are quite drastically different and complex. So understanding all of that and being able to do those things better with understanding and perspective is the greatest blessing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now I want to really add a little bit more value because we got your story. We know kind of where you're at. Now, if somebody came to this podcast and they said, well, I don't know who I am or who I want to become. I have no idea what my identity is. And they start to like recognize that by listening to this. What are some tips or some action items that you would give them to be able to discover what that truly looks like based on your experience, at least?
In my experience, it was a lot of courageous reaching out to people. So knowing that you and I are on this podcast and there's plenty of other people in our ecosystem that they could talk to as well, but understanding that it's okay to reach out to someone just to have a conversation.
Yeah,
And
it's definitely okay to ask for help. People
yeah,
don't.
oh yeah. The conversation could be a massive spark to the rest of their life. That's entirely why I'm in the position I'm in. I've had a lot of mentors, a lot of coaches, a lot of bosses, and they've all given me something to move forward to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like gathering information from people who are in a position that you want to be in, like always asking questions and being curious like a kid. Like that's how I live my life. It's like if I'm in a room with somebody who's more successful than me, who has more money than me, who is closer to where I want to be, I'm gonna make sure I take full advantage of that. A lot of people, they're put in a room with somebody who's better than them, quote unquote, and they get scared and they're afraid and they feel like they can't ask a question when in all reality that person wants to help guide you because they wish that somebody was like that for them.
Right. And the biggest thing I could say to follow up with that is like we all bleed the same, you
Yeah,
know,
we're all
like
the same person. Like
it
we're
it's
unique, but
terrifying,
yeah.
right? 'Cause like you start to have fear and doubt and it just kind of crumbles you up and you just want to sit in your little ball and not reach out, but it is totally worth it. And I wholeheartedly think that courage can come from anyone. So
Hmm. Yeah, I think like one thing I like to say is action without courage is useless. So like, or curiosity, I'm sorry, curiosity without courage. Because you can be curious about something and curious about taking action on something, but unless you have the courage to actually do it, then you're just going to remain curious and you'll never actually get to experience what that could potentially look like for you.
agreed. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So over the last couple of years, I know you've really discovered your identity more than ever. And that's why like it sparked your interest in like, okay, I want to share this with people. So was there like an aha moment when you kind of came about this, or was it just like over time you started to really grow into who you want to be?
It was a lot of over time.
Mhm.
So I would definitely say it was a chipping away kind of process because it probably kicked off during my undergrad when I was in college. So that had to be right around, oh gosh, 6 or 7 years ago. Gross. And so I'm not old, I swear. Um, it's been a process, and I continue to think that I keep growing into that, feeling those shoes, so to speak.
When you started to figure out who you were, did you feel like you were more outgoing and you were able to just appreciate life a lot more?
Dude, yeah. Like I don't look at anything the same.
Yeah.
I used to like there's a I know there's a reason for this, but a couple years ago I developed like anxiety while I was driving and I was like, what is causing this? Like I don't understand.
Just
Uh
like randomly out of the blue.
yeah, like randomly have a panic attack and I have to pull over and just catch my breath and then I'd get back on the road.
Crazy.
Um and luckily it wasn't anything worse than that, but understood one where it came from because and the only reason I understood where it came from is because I got another perspective. It was a therapist situation. Um and there's plenty of other situations where I had to ask other people and whether that was a coworker or even someone at Hidden Summit where I was like, okay, yeah, they're in a completely different state or country, but I heard that they have specialty in this or, you know, through the grapevine. I mean, it's great to have a network,
Yeah.
but a network is useless if you don't use it.
Truth.
So that's crucial is understanding that there's plenty of people to reach out to. Um, and there's other things too, like when um, developing kind of the understanding that there's things that I like and things of how I want to look, for instance. A lot of people get tripped up with this is like the short hair. I only want short hair because it's low maintenance. I
Yeah.
love the color red. That's what I do. Um, Same thing with like my style. I like athletic clothes because they're freaking comfortable.
Hell yeah.
Um, Most of the time, men's clothes are better because they have bigger pockets. So
That is
it's
like
like
a fact though. I never even thought about
it
it like
is.
that, but it's so annoying when I'm wearing like my shorts and I'm like, "Hey babe, can you hold my phone because they won't fit in my pocket because what's the point of these pockets?"
I have dress pants and they have fake pockets. It's like a sewn in just straight line. It's supposed to be a pocket and it's not a pocket. I'm like,
Yeah. So we need to develop a clothing line with big ass pockets for females.
or women. Um, so a lot of people like to correlate their physical appearance with their identity.
Hmm.
Mine isn't necessarily like that. It's just like I'm me. I like comfort. I like low maintenance, like no effort kind of situation. So I think a lot of people overcomplicate that, especially in 2023, 2024.
Yeah.
Um, Post COVID, a lot of people they have time to sit and reflect and think about who they want to be or what they want to look like or, whatever else. And it doesn't have to be super complex. So,
I think one of the biggest things is that people worry far too much about what other people's opinions of them could potentially be, especially with the whole like social media thing. People are afraid to be who they are and be genuinely them because of the fear that somebody on the internet might not like them and might say something mean. And I feel like for you, you've kind of don't give a shit about that. You care about being who you want to be and creating a life that makes you proud.
yeah, and it took me a while to get there.
Yeah, I
So,
bet.
and before, like I said, I came from a very conservative family, and a lot of people have opinions, and they want to make sure that you know those opinions, and then you start to kind of soak those in and think, wait, you take it personally, and you're like, what am I doing wrong? Situation. That was never the case. It should never feel that way. Um, and there's a lot more to that, but it took me a while to understand that just because I do deeply care about my family and my friends.
Hmm.
So having those boundaries of understanding what to take in and what not to take in. And
Yeah.
that has become a practice. It was not a flip of a switch situation, and there was plenty of layers to unfold. Um, but yeah, it's been a very, very long progress to feel like I can do whatever I want and look how I want. I'm totally okay with it.
Yeah. And that really is like finding your identity is not worrying about what other people are going to think about you, not worrying about what somebody could potentially comment about your style or your hair on the internet. Like, who cares if you like it and it works for you? That's what matters. And the amount of weight that is lifted off your shoulder when you realize I'm just going to be who I am and I'm not going to try to pretend to be anybody else because what's the point? We only get a short time on this earth.
Yep, exactly. And those could a lot of these things is like it's a differentiating factor, right? So a lot of people say they're talking to one of my sisters and they're like, Heaven, yeah, the one with the red hair.
Yeah.
It's things that people like they remember you by. It's not necessarily anything that you have to take personal or be upset if someone doesn't like it. Um, I am very, very glad, and I've since then have felt very free. And that's one thing a lot of people don't feel that they can have. And it's literally just a decision to make.
Yeah. And I feel like that's why a lot of people do feel almost like stuck in their life. And it's because, and they can't put like a finger on it. And it's usually goes right back to that is that they feel like they can't be who they are or who they want to be because of what other people or what the environment might say about them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So moving forward, like I know when you found your identity, did you feel as though like that kind of gravitated the right kind of people to you? Like, how did you meet your husband? I never even asked you that question.
Oh my God, yes. So I, as I stated before, super adamant about keeping spirituality and as the top priority, and a lot of that came with waiting till marriage, and that's a hot topic for a lot of different reasons. So you can imagine not a lot of guys respect that. That
Yeah,
just helps beat them out faster.
I totally.
So um, we met through social media, ironically enough. Matthew actually DM'd me, and it was from a gym post, a fitness post. and apparently he just liked my content. I always did the cheesy flexing pictures in the mirror.
Heck
Um,
yeah. We've all been there.
he asked me to lunch and we talked for hours. And then a friend of mine, family friend of mine, Trent, the next day, he actually covered my shift so I could go on another date the day after.
Dude, we
Uh,
had like the same story. Like Stone slipped into my DMs and like we went to dinner and like talked for hours. Same damn thing.
that's awesome. I like it's kind of funny the way it happened. Um, plus, I want to mention this too. I wasn't really looking for anyone.
Yep, that's usually when you find
I was
the
doing my
right
own thing, and it
fit.
was like I'm in my identity. I'm killing it. I love myself, and then he comes swooping in out of nowhere. Um, and the second date, I mean, it was we kayaked to this waterfall, and yeah, sounds really romantic, but we
So
kayaked to
cheesy.
the
I love
waterfall,
it.
and we talked for another probably several hours at this point. I mean, I
Yeah.
learned a lot about him, a lot of things that he has gone through. Um, and it just made me feel, I mean, there was this deep connection where he was also explaining the things that he's gone through, but learning from them because he was really open about the fact that like he's also made mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's just, it just puts you where you are. Um, and come to find out, he was super into Harry Potter, super into fitness. Uh,
Immediate connection.
immediately, like I was like sold right here, right now. Um, and so we just, also understanding too, we talked a lot about our background and what we want in our future, all
Mhm.
on that second date. So laying that out there first was very, very important. And from there, it was very easy. After a few months, we knew for sure. And then a year later, we're married, and now we're over a year of marriage, and it's been phenomenal. Um, and not only him, but like during that, also that transition was kind of when I was getting into Hidden Summit. So it's crazy to think that all of that unfolded all at once. I felt it was definitely like I was like, I feel like this is my year. Um, and now I feel like 2024 is about to be my year.
Yeah, I
But
mean that's how we all feel, right? Like,
right.
but legit, like our stories are so similar, like to the point where Stone proposed in April and I got the job at Hidden Summit in May. So it was like I remember thinking like all this shit is happening all at once is like the best year ever.
Yes. Absolutely. I love that. And like we connected super quick because military life, like mil spouse, like we all
Yeah.
understand things. Um
We're currently both alone.
yeah, that too. Um and like when we roomed together at I mean at the retreat and conference and being able to be closer in proximity and hang out was amazing, which
Yeah, you gave me
I
COVID,
cannot
Kevin.
wait for the next one. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got home. I felt so bad. I was like, I wonder how many people are gonna get COVID.
Nah, it's cool because who knows if it was even you? Let's be honest, like could have been somebody else, but I wasn't even that sick.
There
So
was probably
you
half the
really
team.
were sick. I wasn't that sick.
Yeah, dude, I felt terrible. Like as soon as my dad dropped me off and I like finally was able to settle into my bed, I was like, wait, I don't feel good. This is crazy.
Man, we spent so many good times together though, just like energy drinks, good times.
Yes. And now I'm dying to get another order of energy drinks. So
What's your flavor?
I really, really liked the citrus one.
That was my favorite. And then the tropical lightning one just like kicks
See,
ass.
I just finished a pack of the tropical lightning and it just didn't like I guess punch me enough.
I
I,
see what you're saying. I see. Citrus and tropical lightning are like right there for me. If you guys don't know, First Form energy drinks are the best energy drink. And I'm not biased. It's the only energy drink that doesn't make me feel like a trash can because I was so reluctant to taste them because usually I'll drink an energy drink and feel like absolute garbage. But at HSRC at the Hidden Summer Retreat, I was dying because I had like 2 hours of sleep. I already had coffee and I was like, I need something else. And they were giving First Form energy drinks. So I was like, yes, I'll try it. If I feel like shit, I feel like shit. Nothing could be worse than how I feel right now. And I
dude,
felt so good. I remember I wanted to like run through a brick wall.
everyone, because I was running off like an hour and a half just because I couldn't freaking sleep. That was a different story. But I get in there and I'm like, I look, first of all, I felt so bad. I ran into like Jennifer Whitman, Jenny Merriman, and I think there was another person. It could have been Paula, but I could be tripping.
Mhm.
Basically, I just woke up from a power nap. I go into the elevator. I see these people and I'm like, I'm processing. I'm staring at them. I'm processing. I'm like, wait, these are Hidden Summit people.
Oh,
And I haven't run into anyone yet. So I'm sitting there processing and they're like, you're Heaven. And I'm like, yes.
yes, I am.
And then, and then I go out of the elevator and I go down the hallway and then I'm like, that was the worst interaction ever. Heaven, wake up. And I'm telling myself to wake up. I go into the other room. Kevin and Sam Norman, ironically enough, are standing in the room. And I looked at them and they're tall. So I'm gonna
Yeah, they
anyway.
are.
I looked at them and I was like, don't talk to me. Don't ask me questions. Give me like 10 minutes. And then the other Sam comes up. She's like, energy drink. And I was like, yes.
Let me tell you, like Sam, I like to call her Canadian Sam. So we got Canadian Sam, which is Sam Ecclestone, and then we have Sam Norman, who is Shit Show Sam, because we do Shit Show Saturday. And then Canadian Sam just held it down that weekend. Like anything that anybody needed, it was like, what you need, I got you. Like saving lives with energy drinks and coffee and all this stuff.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And after that, I felt like a brand new person.
I know it's
I
wild.
felt
And
I
I
had
was
two
like
that day.
addicted to the point, Heaven, where when we were going to help Calvin, where we needed to be there at a certain time, we were like, we can take a detour to go to Vitamin Shop to get some
Yeah.
energy drinks because we won't be effective without them.
We had to. We had to. It was a necessity.
It was so good. But yeah, I mean, HSRC was such a great time for us to connect because I actually got to meet you in person. And there's something different about like we do our job and we talk to a lot of people over the camera. And I think now more than ever, people are craving like that human interaction. And that's why the Hidden Summit retreat was just like such a powerful thing for everybody.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had definitely reflected after the fact and had some tears. But I know as people were departing, I mean, there were lots of happy tears, sad tears because it's gonna be a while till we see each other again. And I think everyone's already excited for this year's retreat.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. So if you guys want in on that, you're gonna have to just continue to follow because I mean we're both gonna post about it. Hidden Someone's gonna post about it because it's gonna be an incredible party, but
yeah.
also an incredible like learning experience because we learned so much from so many incredible people. But again, it just goes back to the community, and we talk about community a lot on this podcast because we're a part of First Form, Hidden Summit, so many different communities, and there's something really powerful again, especially in this day and age, about community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, this has been such a great conversation. Is there anything else that you want to say to somebody who's struggling right now, maybe in a really tough situation, who's really just doesn't know where to go from here and what they can do to help themselves?
Yeah, I mean, just mainly encouragement. I know how terrifying it can be to reach out to someone, um, even if it's just one singular person. So I try to gift you the courage to do that, and
Yes.
you'll be surprised how amazing it would turn out for the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like to say there's nothing more valuable than hiring a good coach or hiring a good mentor or just having somebody to help guide you through whatever journey or part of your life that you're in.
100%.
Awesome. Well, Heaven, thank you again. This has been such a good conversation. I'm excited for this one. This is going to add a lot of value, but everybody go follow Heaven. Her Instagram will be down below. If you need support, shoot Heaven a message. She'll definitely reach out back to you. But guys, go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.